Hey everyone, we're gonna get started. We have a jam-packed session today. I'll try and round up a couple more chairs. And we're gonna have some speakers who will be coming.
I can leave.
I can stay on.
Okay, so today is our whirlwind tour of ITS Davis. And I'm just gonna turn it over to Alissa Kendall, Acting Director of ITS, to do the beginning. And then we're just gonna plow through it fast. Yes, and I'm cutting people off.
All right, hello everyone, it's great to see you guys. I'm here in my capacity as Acting Director of ITS. My job is to tell you something about ITS, a lot of which you might already know, but we're gonna do it anyway. You're here because we're the premier university center in sustainable transportation. And here's a list of all the, the sort of the scale of the funding and stakeholders that we work with, from, new graduate students all the way to NGOs, foundations, and so forth. Our goal here, I think the unique thing that you guys get to see or experience as students here in particular is how engaged we are with like policymakers, government, NGOs, think tanks. You're really getting a lot of opportunities to interact directly with all of these folks in ways that a lot of other academic programs don't let you do. So that's a really big part of it. And then really big part is the multidisciplinarity of the Institute itself, which is reflected in our TTP graduate group, for example. And that's a really unique part about what gives ITS its identity. And you're going to hear about all these different research centers that reflect all of that, the many disciplines that make up what we do here. And we have a really applied focus, right? Sure, there's theory and sort of scholarly work happening, but there's also a big focus on delivering real world solutions. And that's transportation people are about that in general, right? We can't ignore people and we can't ignore reality in the places that we work. I've already kind of mentioned this with respect to who we engage with and stakeholders. And of course, we have lots and lots of different sponsors in ITS from transportation, industry, government, foundations, etc. And you guys get to interact with some of these folks at some of the different events that we have here, whether it's a poster session for our Board of Advisors meeting, or for those of you participating in STEPS, which you'll hear about as well. I'm new to this role. It's been a few weeks. So I said, I want a chart that lays out everything that ITS does. And I got this, which really lists a whole bunch of the different centers and initiatives that are up here. And so
They're gonna hear about each one of these.
Exactly, you're gonna hear about all of these. And then also point out that we have a bunch of international efforts. I think the one, the China Center for Energy and Transportation, for example, which has been around for quite a while, and then a bunch of growth and development here as well. We also have some associated centers like the Pavement Research Center, which some of you guys might know about, which is further out there. It's even further away from main campus in West Village. All right. Yeah, I don't need to sell you guys on this, but we produce a lot of research, and you guys are probably part of this productivity right here as well. But this was just an example of how much we do sort of in the course of a few months with respect to reports, articles. I mean, to think that we produced 113 journal articles in about a year, that's pretty good for an institute. That's pretty impressive. In fact, I promise I will never read all of them because that's way too much. All right, the other thing that obviously there's a lot going on here, but lots of events that you'll have an opportunity sometimes to engage with. And this is a really important opportunity for you guys to meet your future employers, to network, to also hear from stakeholders, whether they're community-based organizations or industry, on what they see as like the big news out there. So take advantage of all of that while you're here at ITS. So with that, I'm gonna leave it on the scary bike circle because the beginning of the fall quarter, always be worried when you're crossing the street between classes, okay?
All right, thank you. Okay, I'm just gonna put this slide back up. I showed this last week. Make sure that everybody who's enrolled in TTP 281, that you know what you need to be doing, which is using the QR code to register your presence here and then submitting your 3 questions via Canvas. And then remember, be thoughtful, thankful, courteous for the guest speakers, embrace this opportunity. People are donating, gifting you their time. Any questions? Okay, so I'm going to start this tour through all the various ITS centers with the National Center for Sustainable Transportation. It is kind of a special center here. It is a special center here in that it helps to support all the other programs. It is a grant from the US Department of Transportation, and I'll show you how we spent some of that money. But it really is sort of this umbrella kind of thing. It is not just ITS Davis. We lead the National Center, but we have partners around the country, and then some of the opportunities we have for you have to do with those partners. So I'll mention that in a moment. It funds work across everything we do here at ITS Davis. So vehicle technology, infrastructure, travel demand. We've got some special focuses, foci on sustainable freight, rural mobility, vehicle electrification, all of that. And it funds research. That's where the bulk of the money goes. And those research projects have to have a graduate student researcher on them. So a number of you are supported on this funding. I should note that the federal funding is matched by Caltrans. And actually the bulk of the research funding through the NCST is Caltrans funding. So some of you are on Caltrans NCST projects. But money also goes into education. One of our few pots of money that we can use to fund some extra educational sorts of activities. And I'll talk about things you're going to be interested in a moment. And then we also fund engagement activities. So the kind of stuff Alissa was just talking about in terms of interacting with our stakeholders. So it is a really important resource for ITS Davis, but also for all of you students in terms of enriching your experience here. So specifically opportunities for students, like I said, graduate student researcher positions. We have dissertation fellowships we give out every year. Those are anybody from any program who's doing work on transportation is eligible. It's not just TTP and not just transportation engineering. So be on the lookout for those announcements. We have a graduate student exchange program with those partner schools. So if somebody at one of those schools is doing work in your area and you think it's important for you to go visit them, learn about what they're doing, maybe use some of their equipment, you know, whatever it is, that's another opportunity. We fund students to go for a couple of weeks to spend time with researchers at those other schools, and sometimes their students come here. Sometimes we support ad hoc, sort of one-off courses with help from the NCST. So for example, we've got the Transportation Policy in the Real World seminar that's going on this quarter. And if you have ideas about extra interesting, exciting things we could be offering, let me know, and there may be a possibility we can make that happen. We fund some of the ITS seminar speakers who come here on Fridays because there can be travel expenses. So this is a lot of money we can use to help that. And then we do a whole bunch of other things, and probably some other things I'm forgetting. Yes. For PhD students, I should, or students, I should.
Advising undergrads in the undergrad program or mentoring.
Oh yeah, that's another opportunity. So we also fund a summer undergraduate research fellows program every summer where we bring on a bunch of undergrads to work on ITS Davis research projects. And yeah, a lot of grad students end up working directly with those undergrads. So that's a nice kind of mentoring opportunity for you all. And you get some help with your research. So that's great. All right, and that's the NCST. So you hear NCST, National Center for Sustainable Transportation. Woo-hoo, we're the only national center on sustainable transportation. Okay, an exciting new thing that's a spin-off from the NCST is this thing that Harry Watkins is setting up, and you can do the acronym. We have no slides, sorry.
There's no slides because we're a brand new center. We're not even under contract with USDOT yet. But building off of all the successes that Susan just talked about, we have a new cooperating agreement, meaning we work even more hand in hand with USDOT doing research that will set policy. And this is in a new center called Circuit. And we directly report to USDOT's Climate Change Center. And so what Circuit stands for is the Center for Emissions Reduction, Resiliency, and Climate Equity in Transportation. I'm the only person in this room who can rattle that whole thing off. So that's the basic idea of the whole thing. Some of you may eventually get involved in research as the center gets kicked off, and you will hear even more. But in the title, you heard our 3 pillars. So essentially, we're focused on emissions reductions, so that EV piece, that's pretty big, but also looking at trip reduction, looking at mode shift, all of those pieces that you'll hear from other centers. And then also climate resiliency, which I think you probably won't hear from anybody else who's gonna jump in. We have a real focus on the fact that climate change is already affecting our transportation system, and how do we actually maintain resiliency to that. And then also a very big climate equity piece. So in both of those 2 areas, both emissions reduction and resiliency, how do we make sure that the impacts are equitable across everyone who is served by our transportation system? And I will just add one more NCST thing, a plug that if you want to stick around at 3 o'clock after the seminar, a new educational thing, not just for you guys as students, but also for staff and faculty. We're starting a professional development series that will be once a month. At least this quarter, it's going to be the first Friday of every month, right after ITS seminar. And today we're going to talk about time management. So make sure you come and
Okay, so that's, NCST. Okay, 2 more things I'm gonna mention very briefly. This is a little confusing, but the NCST is a part of this federal program called the University Transportation Centers Program. And one of the big national grants was part of that program. We are also a part of the regional University Transportation Center for this region, which is led by USC, University of Southern California, and it's called the Pacific Northwest Region, UTC. And we get not a whole lot of money out of this, but again, it funds the same kinds of things that the NCST funds, so that's great. And then and you can see who the partner schools are there. And then the exciting thing I wanted to get you all thinking ahead about is that the PSR does a regional summit every year, and it's really fun when it's in Hawaii, but that's not what happened this year. It's in Berkeley this year, and that means it's very close to us. And it'd be a great opportunity for you all to share your research, network with students at these other schools, including UCLA and Berkeley and Irvine, who also have ITSs like ours, and to meet the faculty from those. So have that on your radar, and we'll be sending out.
Is Berkeley in our group now?
Yeah. Berkeley
Yes,
and
yes,
UCLA are
yes.
new.
Oh, yeah, sorry, they're a part of it too. This slide.
Oh, it's
Okay, so that's PSR, your PSR, PSR UTC, that's what that is. Okay, and then kicking off the topical specific centers, I'm just going to mention the Value Lab, which is a relatively new initiative, and it's the VMT, which stands for Vehicle Miles Traveled, VMT Land Use and Equity Lab that Jesus Barajas and I head up with some other researchers like Jamie Bolker and Lisa Barber. And it's all about work on reducing car dependence and trying to do that in an equitable sort of way with a lot of projects with CARB and Caltrans. And we're meeting this quarter, Thursdays 2 to 3 and 1017 Wixon. Everybody is welcome to come sit in. We do a lot of sharing of work in progress, things like that. Okay, Susie Pike up next.
So I'm gonna go first.
2 o'clock meeting.
Oh, okay.
Let's go. I'm sorry.
Messing things up.
I know.
Donna.
We'll come back to Susie in a second. Wow.
No, we don't go back.
Well, it's all going forward, so.
My name's Dylan Fitch-Pulse, and I put co-directors because it's not much of a directed research institute. Like some of these, it's more of a collaborative where we just gather together, kind of like what Susan was talking about, Value Lab. And Carrie has been playing a big role this past year, so Susan, Carrie, and I put us all up there. And we cover research on walking, bicycling, and anything that's rolling, anything that fits in a bike lane, or it doesn't need a permit to operate. Those are the kinds of vehicles and that we're thinking about and discussing. We cover lots of themes, but also car use reduction is a big one, equity, and then safety as well. We have a lot of different topic expertise within the group. If you're interested, we are meeting this quarter from 9 to 10 on Thursday mornings, right here. So let me know if you want to get on the listserv or just show up. And we've got a bunch of upcoming projects, so if any of these seem interesting, we'll be talking about these this quarter. And we also do some kind of like technical skill development. Next week, we're going to talk about survey design and using Qualtrics to set up a survey. One more thing, we have a relatively new center called the Active Transportation Resource Center. This is not a research center like all the rest of them that you're going to hear. This is a research to practice group, and it's run by a woman named Michelle Lieberman, who works remotely in Orange County. She's fabulous. She was the head of the National Safe Routes Partnership for 2 years before we got her. She interfaces with California Department of Public Health, Caltrans, CTC to help local agencies do better active transportation planning and implementation. And the cool thing about it is that our research can get directly funneled into the practice through what Michelle is doing with the Active Transportation Resource Center. So if you're interested in how all this research gets applied, let me know and I can connect you. Oh, and just a reminder that you're in the bicycling mecca of the US. If you didn't know, we have an incredible history of bike planning. Yes, that is a partly protected bike lane way back in the 60s or so. It's not a new thing to have innovative bike infrastructure.
That was one of the first, right?
Yeah, I think Davis was experimenting with all kinds of different infrastructure back. We've since removed most of it, but thank you very much.
Sorry, just shuffle through this time. Alright. Okay, for those of you that don't know me, Susie Pike, I'm the director of the Transit Research Center, and my own work is around a lot of transit topics as well as travel behavior. Carrie Watkins co-directs the Transit Research Center with me, and then we also collaboratively run the Transit Lab, which is similar to what Susan was talking about, the Value Lab, and Dylan with the Bicycling Plus Collaborative has a similar kind of format. We're a relatively new center. These are some photos from our events over the past couple of years, including field trips, our annual Transit Research Symposium. We've done 3 so far. They've been great. And let's see, but yeah, we just started in 2021. So we're growing and excited to have more folks. So I was going to use today as a moment to just kind of highlight some of the student-led projects that we have going on, and I purposefully left off many details of the projects, but included photos of the students who are leading them so that y'all can know who to talk to if this is something that you're interested in. So Bailey Appleter is a PhD student really leading this project, evaluating a fare free program for K-12 students or those under 18 in Santa Cruz County. How is it affecting their current travel behavior? Will it motivate them to use transit in their lives in the future? Some of the key research questions. Maha Ahmad is looking at how commuter rail still is impacted by the pandemic, and our local rail route here, the Capital Corridor that runs between Sacramento and San Jose, goes further up, but really kind of think of it as Sacramento. What kinds of programs might enable people to come back to using the Capital Corridor or inspire new travelers? And so she's on the verge of launching a large-scale survey to think about potential solutions. Marcus Chan is doing a bunch of work here with Unitrans, trying to help them develop methods that could potentially be applied to other kind of university-centered transit systems to help better estimate ridership and changes in ridership. Some of you guys are here. I think Marcus is here, no? Maybe? No. No? Okay. That's okay. And then we have a couple more student-led projects that are, very active right now. Matthew Liu is helping us evaluate our local microtransit service called Beeline. It runs in Yolo County, which is our county here that Davis is part of. This service is largely centered around Woodland and some of the more rural areas beyond. But it's a really interesting program, and so an interesting project to evaluate how it improves mobility and changes people's travel choices now that they're using it. And then finally, one of my students, Naomi Panjatan, is looking at mobility of care and how mobility of care differs between men and women, and also what those trips look like and how they contribute to BMT. So all of these different questions. So little detail here on each of those projects that really, especially if you're a new student, it's great to kind of chat with older students and hear about the kinds of things that they're doing. Maybe some of it will inspire you or give you some insights into what you may not want to do. And then these are kind of our ongoing activities that we have. We meet as a transit lab every Friday immediately following the ITS seminar. We usually meet just kitty corner here across in the WCEC conference room. Today, as has been mentioned, there's this professional development series that's happening here, and Transit Lab is going to join that, but we usually meet across the way. We have our 4th annual symposium coming up in April, so save the date here. And we always issue a call for presentations and pictures for our events. We really like to make sure that anyone that's doing transit relevant research gets a chance to participate in that event. We have a website that you can contact me if you have other questions. I don't know who's next. Just go through, we'll skip through Dylan. All right, thank you. EVs.
All right, Gil, 5 minutes.
Oh, I went over, huh?
So the EV Research Center is one of the oldest, started in 2007. And before EVs started to come back in 2010. And we are a big group that try to make it happen. That's kind of the goal of the EV Research Center, to make this change happen. We are not designing batteries or cars. We are, like you are, doing a lot of behavior, a lot of energy modeling and policy. These are kind of the 3 main things. We're looking, consumer adoption, market diffusions, charging infrastructure, big part. Charging infrastructure is, when I started, was 0 people who are doing travel behavior that were looking at the charging infrastructure. Think about what a big gap was there. Think about how people drive and charge and the decision to go to one place or another without anyone who's doing behavior. Now it's mostly, or not mostly, big part of it is there. And we look at both privately owned vehicles, but also TNC, fleet, transit, heavy duty. So all of the other centers, we have a lot of work together. Very multidisciplinary group. So don't come to me. Talk to any of these people here and all of the students. And each one kind of hold this elephant from a different corner. Together we're trying to make sense of it. Alan Jens, Scott Hardman, Ken Coroni, and all the postdocs, some of them are here in the room. that work on it from different corners. We have a huge group of undergrads that work on different projects, driving REVs to test chargers and so on. And we really enjoy having these undergrads working with us because we're trying to engage them in research on top of these other topics that they're doing. And in many cases, our grad students, let's see if Anya is here today, are in a way also leading small group of undergrads that works for them on different things. So it's kind of, if you want to, it's a quick growing opportunity. Similar to what Alissa said before, the fun thing about working here is that you have to engage with the users of your research. Otherwise, you cannot just publish and say good, because they will call on you if you are wrong. You have to engage with the users of our research, and we are doing it on a almost daily basis. I don't think we have slides for steps, but we have this kind of group of centers working together. Next month, we have our symposium. You're all invited to the symposium. Make sure that you know about the STEP symposium. Make sure that you sign in and you're coming, meeting the sponsor, presenting posters, and talking about your work. And that's correct for everyone at ITS. There is no kind of a gate there for anyone at ITS. So major new project. Anyone in this room already drive electric car? Yeah, we have. Anyone who drive electric car never had problem with finding a charger when you need, or like, yeah. Never. So big issue today is charging reliability. Charging it, they are there, but how do we make them stay? We have all of these 3 cars that we kind of partially own, rent from fleet services, drive them around California and test chargers. See the congestion of the chargers, see if they work, how fast they work, what the people who are there at the charger say about them. A lot of work on that. Supply policies, a lot of the work that Alissa, Kendall, and others are talking about. ZEV access to underserved communities. JC and Scott Hardman are leaders on this work. Understand segments of car owning in California. Do you know how many people are now buying electric trucks just because they feel comfortable and moving to these Rivians? Why people in California even drive trucks to buy a gallon of milk at the supermarket? Please help me study this topic. We work hard on this one. Grid impact. A lot of our work is coming from the energy side. So if you're more interested also in the impact on the grid, on charging infrastructure, on electricity. And yeah, more. Maybe we should stop here and just come and talk with us about any question or initiative or ideas for research and so on. Thank you. Oh, next, one more slide so you know. Yeah, he knows. He knew.
Hello, this is Young Sung, Director of Program Support, Three Revolutions Future Mobility. So 2018, Dennis Pauling, the founding director of ITS, he published a book with the same name, and we got the inspiration, and then create a, back then, kind of revolutionary focus, the research center with research program with revolutionary focus. So today, 6 years later, so these 3 revolutions all share mobility, TNCs, ride daily, and shared electric scooters and bikes, and electric mobility, and also automated mobility. And now many of these components quite evolve over time. So right now we have some ideas about shared mobility and also electric mobility, and autonomous vehicles are quite close to our daily life, more so than before. But back then it was quite revolutionary kind of early attempts, and we had pretty good records of publishing academic papers and also reports that are useful for government agencies in this area. So these are broadly defined collaborators and postdocs and students that are working with us. And gosh, I got the instruction that we are limited to 3 slides and 5 minutes. And this is my last slide. And then while I was looking at other centers' great presentation, I felt like, oh, I was the one actually.
Thank you for
Yeah.
directions,
Thank you.
following directions.
Yeah.
You win
So-
points.
Anyway, these are selected projects that are ongoing in our program. So 3 groups. I put them under 3 groups. So we have been tracking travel behavior, especially focusing on California since 2015 and more so since 2018, almost regular kind of annual basis. And we are looking at behavior changes, and fortunately or unfortunately, COVID happened since 2018. So we keep track of changes in work arrangement, changes like shopping behavior and other remote activities through ICT, information communication technology, and also how the regional location choice would differ post-pandemic. And the second set of research focusing on actual kind of work that are immediately relevant and meaningful for government agencies. So we are working with 2 California agencies to inform them about the ongoing policy, so-called clean mile standard, meaning that mandating the ride-hailing sector to electrify, and what are the hurdles and challenges and opportunities and strategies, and we are supporting that work, and also with Caltrans, California Transportation Department of Transportation, and what are the current and future factors that are shaping current future mobility, and so on. And the last one, the space is still evolving. So you may see like from time to time kind of focus changes. So previously ride-hailing, for some time, share bikes and electric scooters, and now EV, but still the field is quite evolving. So we are looking at mobility as a service, looking at the integration or interaction of all different services, and also the combining passenger mobility with goods movement, or so-called freight. So we will have freight center presentation very soon. But we are looking at cargo e-bikes and how that could kind of revolutionize, transform the urban transportation, especially how we share the street space with passengers, with pedestrians, with vehicles, and also with small vehicles as well. So please reach out to us if you have any questions or if you are interested in getting involved. Thank you. Oh, and one last thing. So we have upcoming research workshop. 4 slides. So a little bit 12. So please sign up. Yeah, the email will be certainly very soon, and also set for symposium. So reach out to us and all other directors for this interesting event. Thanks.
Okay, so that's me. Thank you. So first of all, I just tell you bad news. We are probably the last research center on China's transportation and energy in the United States. Many of them are closing down. As you know, it's not a good time to do anything with China, right? But it's important. We have to understand what is going on in China. So my first question for you is today, which country is the 2nd largest auto market in the world?
US,
Yes.
yeah.
Good. Which country is the 2nd largest auto exporter in the world? Good.
Germany.
Japan. China is number 1 here. Okay. So I have a lot of pictures, live pictures. So you can see this Governor Newsom, me, and US. I don't know why this is not US ambassador to China. US ambassador to China. We are all the Great War. Nowhere else we should be, right? And Jerry Barak,
Photoshop.
Mary Nichols, yeah, Photoshop. So this person is very important. He was the pioneer of China's EV program, returning from Germany to China and become the Minister of Science and Technology, Fan Gang. This is Patty Monahan, the CEC, California Energy Commission. So this is the governor of Hainan province. He used to be the vice minister of transportation in China. So he came to visit us just 2 months ago. So you don't really get governors to visit, right? So you got the pictures. You have to take a picture. So these are the projects we are doing. Number 1 is the updating of China's transportation carbon neutrality pathway. So we are working on the China's goal to reach carbon neutrality by 2060. We are aiming for 2050. And then we have with California, Hainan, China MOU on the climate issues and zero emission vehicles. So I'm one of the secretariat for the California side. We are working with the Putin's group on total cost of ownership analysis for battery swapping heavy-duty trucks, which we think is very important. Right now, it's mostly, maybe not only, but mostly in China happening. So we want to alert the world what is going on with that business model. And this is obviously advised by Stephen. It's exploring microtransit. It's Yanxin, Dr. Yanxin is leading that project. It's not about China, it's about California. Then we have policy research to support Hainan's target to reach 100% clean energy vehicle by 2030. So we're gonna have 5 years.
But that'd be the number 2 place in the world to achieve it, right? Because
After
Norway.
After Norway. So we do a lot of work for the California government, the US government. So I did this report to advise John Kerry's group on zero emission vehicles in their negotiation with China on climate issues. This is the signing of MOU with China's Hainan province and work with 4 secretaries. You can see all these California faces. This is Secretary of Power EPA, born in Mexico. Secretary of Power Government Operation, born in China. Secretary of Transportation, right? The Secretary of Energy, what do we call it? Natural Resources, like Wade Crawford. So that's California. I'm very proud of being part of that. And then we went with the China's battery swap stations. So that's not my group. So these are the foundations and companies that supporting us. We are a small group. We work on a few projects, and we pick back on all those giant centers that working closer with them. Thank you very much.
That'd be sustainable phrase, or is he not here? Not, I'll do it. Okay,
I don't see Miguel.
all right,
Miguel?
he's too busy. Okay, so I'm Lou Fulton.
Hey.
Oh, there he is.
Dude.
We were just like, where's Miguel?
It's like when Fonzie walks in the room for old people.
Hi, everyone. I'm Miguel Jaller. One of the theories in logistics is just in time. So together with Lou and Marshall Miller, we co-direct the Sustainable Freight Research Program. We started the program in 2019, and now it's 5 years going strong. So this is kind of an example of who's part of the program. Sometimes we call it center, sometimes we call it program, but we just do research, and that's basically what we do. And so we have a mix of admin, students, and researchers as part of the program. We have 2 main areas. One is looking into working closely with Energy Future Fest. Lou's going to talk about that after this one. Looking everything related to kind of the fuels, the energy that powers the freight movements. And for freight in the center, we have a wide net from a parcel that gets to your doorstep to a big shipment that goes to a manufacturing facility to the building of vehicles and any other type of equipment. So we have a technology track, and then we have an operational track. And we converge on how does the technology that we have available today or in the near future is able to fulfill the needs of the goods movement system. And then what should be done in terms of operations and improvement to logistics systems to be able to take advantage of the technologies and equipment that is available today or in the near future. And we produce different type of research from research to inform policy. So we have been involved in some of the discussions regarding freight sustainability plans, looking into kind of the freight side of the electrification and zero-emission vehicles, also on the demand side. And we develop model tools for different type of stakeholders. So we work with the private sector. We have many funders of the programs that are mainly OEMs. We also work for the agencies, the main agencies in California. We have done research for foundations and many other type of entities that provide funding or have kind of skin on the game related to improving and decarbonizing the freight transportation system. But we don't always just talk about carbon. We also talk about local impacts, and we have developed models to incorporate health impact analysis and environmental pollutions that affects the equity and the technologies. So this is an example of different topic areas. Again, we do a lot of work looking at how the different technologies look like, what are the specifications that can perform better to decarbonize and to improve the system. We also look into what is the supporting infrastructure that is needed for that technology. In most cases, I'm talking about charging infrastructure, fuel infrastructure, if it's hydrogen. We look into behaviors. So even in freight, most the ones that make the decisions are people, either fleet owners or government agencies or people that is behind the demand of that freight. We look at a lot of freight and logistics modeling. Again, operations, we mix operation research, simulation, and econometrics, kind of the toolbox that we use in most of the models. It's not only about the movement, again, with a lot of impact analysis from the environmental all the way to the health impacts. We do, again, if we have a broad definition of what is freight, we also have a broad definition of how freight is moved from people walking to deliver cargo all the way to a large rig transporting goods between manufacturing facilities or doing business transactions. We do a lot of work on resilience. So freight is part of everyday life. Everything that you see here is part of the freight system that was brought by the freight system. Everything that you eat is brought by the freight system. So you have to be resilient, if not, we die. We look into accounting for different type of costs. And sometimes we do that in a single metric using different valuation techniques. Sometimes we cannot, or we don't want to get into the ethical and philosophical dilemmas on how to quantify that in monetary terms. So we provide different type of accounting techniques depending on the impact. And then we have done international benchmarking. So that's kind of an overview of what we do. And these are some of the agencies that provide funding. If you have any questions?
I think we hold the questions. Hey, you just leave again and run into your next room. Anyway, okay, thank you, Miguel. So then the fifth of the centers that were part of the STEPS program, which is this funding consortium, it's not that important to think of, but we just happen to do 5 in a row. But that also now, along with the China Center, include a couple of other international things. So I'll run through these. So the fifth one is Energy Futures, and that's the one I direct. And I see a bunch of our students here, which is great. And I don't think Colin is here though, just to see if I get a shout out from Colin. But Colin Murphy's also a key co-director in that group, among others. Marshall is involved. I mean, Miguel's involved. A lot of us are involved with this. And it's apart from the electricity for electric vehicles, and I think electricity modeling is mostly happening in the EV Center. We're doing a lot of the analysis and modeling of the energy systems that support transportation. And a lot of the work has a California orientation, some of it's got a US orientation, and increasingly there is a sort of international component here, which has helped to spawn a lot of new centers and work internationally. So I'll just quickly run through this. Sustainable transportation, of course, assessing fuels and vehicle technology, and I think pathways is like one of the keys. 5 years ago, we were still seeing a lot of targets and harder regulations coming into play about when transitions had to happen. In California, a lot of it's by 2035, right? Basically now cars and trucks have to be only ZEV in terms of sales in 2035. That includes trucks actually, even though that's buried deep in the law. All vehicles sold in 2035 should be ZEV. So we look at that now as a fait accompli, but the question is still, how do you do it in 10 years? So a lot of our work is about how are we gonna get this rolling in 10 years? A little bit on the electric side, a lot of the truck stuff is on the sustainable freight group, but a lot of it is on the energy side, including hydrogen. We do a lot of work on hydrogen and fuel cell vehicles. We do quite a bit of work on low carbon fuels, which still are gonna matter even if they're liquid fuels. And then we do these transition studies to try to understand what happens year by year and how this is really gonna work and whether it really can happen that fast and what it's gonna cost. So I do this all the time. I get a slide ahead, so I've just said all this. But good, because my time's up. Okay, so topics this year. So we've got 3 transition modeling topics. A couple of them are actually international. We're getting into global ZEV transitions with some of our international people and critical materials supply chain. So if you know you're gonna need so many batteries worldwide by some date, how are you gonna have, or if you know you're gonna have this many electric vehicles, how are you gonna have enough batteries? How are you gonna have materials for the batteries? And Aditya Ramji and along with Alissa are leading a lot of that work. Low carbon fuels led by Colin. So a lot of questions about how are we gonna deal with increasing use of biofuels and how do you keep that sustainable or avoid heavy unsustainability on the biofuel side. There's other high-tech fuels coming, we look at that, and then the hydrogen, there's a lot of work going on in the hydrogen space. We're involved with the California Arches Hydrogen Hub, and we're trying to help make that work. They're gonna get $1 billion from the DOE to roll out a hydrogen system, and we wanna help them do that as good as they can. So that's pretty much it, yep, and I'm done with that one, but I think it might be me again, because I'm the designated spokesperson. So ETERC is our European, so there's China, there's Europe, and there's India now that have centers. And then we have kind of an overarching international framework for this that we're just developing. But the ETERC, the European Transportation Energy Research Center, is headquartered in Paris. So if you were really a good student, you never know, you might end up being able to go there. There's not actually any physical space yet, but we have a couple of people there, and it's led by Pier Paolo Cazzola. He used to be in the International Energy Agency. He's great. He's been leading it well. We just had a big conference in Brussels, along with EU representatives. It was kind of a transatlantic EU-US conference on sustainable transportation. So there's a lot happening there. I won't go through this, but there's rationales, visions, but it's basically the European version of what we do. But thinking about Europe from the point of view of how can we learn from what they're doing, how can they learn from US and especially what California's doing, because it's really the two, along with China, I'd say, maybe the 3 leadership areas of the world, but also then getting Europe more connected to other international efforts that are going on. Lots of people involved. There's Pier Paolo, and others who we work with. And there's a bunch of reports already. They're very productive over there. So this is all available on the ETERC website. And there's new work going on, and come to me if you want to know more about it. And there's some possible future research. I'm just not going to go through this. It's the same kinds of topics, but with more of a European flavor. And then we'll do this conference again. We're trying to make it happen every other year in the off years when it's not in the Silomar year. We haven't talked about a Silomar, but Silomar, UC Davis is the sponsor of and the organizer of, and then we get a lot of other sponsorship, but I think it's fair to say it's the premier transportation energy policy conference in the United States, and we do it every 2 years in the Silomar, California. We'll do it next July. And then we're trying to make this ETERC conference something like that in Europe. And we just did one, not as big as the Silomar, but in 2 years, we'll do another one and try to keep making it bigger and better and get to that same level. And that is that. So I guess it's time for the pavement center.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. John here. Oh, there we go.
Please look. Hi. Thank you, guys. While we are payment research, UC Payment Research Center. We have a facility at Davis and Berkeley. But this is here at the Davis. We are about 30 people. So this picture is a drone shot we just took about a month ago, showing us standing in our playground. So if you look real hard, you can find this Professor John Harvey. I think it's that guy over there on the left. And then there's a professor in the city on the right. So two professors, we have maybe 6 or 7 graduate students and a bunch of staff and undergrad students. So I think this picture it's perfect showcase of what we do. We build payments. So we work with the payments. We build real full-scale payments, and then we test them. And this is just the light bulb.
You just have to aim it at this computer.
Oh, okay. Well, at the top right corner, you will see those 2 big machines. We use those to run tests on the actual payment and see. So in other words, we build them, just be able to break them. See how long will they last? How do they break? So we can learn from that and then build our road better. So we are talking about full-scale payments. So we work with anything that's related to payments. So that means we sometimes work with soil. In this case, we have our staff working on checking the compaction of our the subgrades and the base material. And then we also work with the surface material, the black asphalt concrete. So we are trying to make specimen, getting them ready to make specimen. And we also, wait. What did I do?
All right.
Was it me?
All right. We're ready to.
There we go.
Yeah. More down.
Yeah, more down.
Okay, that one. All right, put you back there. Okay.
What was not me, okay? And I don't know what happened. Okay, so we talk about this one, We also have to mention the concrete specimens taking a nice bath.
Oh.
So we help, we do research on recycling. So in this case, we are taking the old payment that we built up, and then on this side here, and we crush them and prepare them so that we can have a nice new material to put it back into the road. So we do research on learning how to do this so that we get quality payment. So wait. Careful. So we do full cycle research going from lab to actual implementation. In this case, it's a corridor project just outside of here in Sacramento between Elk Grove and the Richards Boulevard on Sacramento I-5. So we help them with the mixed design, the specification and testing. The reason we help them is because this new generation of new way of doing the contracting and doing the specification. And we get organized, recognized by the industry, and so we have our fearless leader, Professor Harvey, right there in the middle. Caltrans has adopted the we know the picture, we know the profile, we know the construction history, and so a lot of data to mine if you like that kind of work. So, in case you have more questions, come visit us. It's a nice place. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Right, so, hi, we're the newest center at ITS, the Mosaic Mobility Science Automation and Inclusion Center. I'm representing my colleague Jin-Chan Joshua Zhang here, our mission is quite broad, but really focused on automation, AI and vehicle automation technologies. But we come from a background of both political science and law, as well as behavioral and social science. So we have sort of a two-part program, one on the sort of more technical AI side, and one on the more behavioral science, social science side, which very much complements the work that has been done by the Three Revolutions program. So you see a lot of synergies between our different centers today. So the technical side of our research includes AI foundational research, which they're doing all sorts of really interesting work on deep learning and proving how they can improve deep reinforcement learning so that we can see better results for AV driving. And they have opportunities to test that. You can see some of the bottom three are done in different modeling software and simulators, which are really fascinating. One is using the a driving simulator that has, allows humans to train the model, but then can be tested in different scenarios. They can pretend different vehicles. Right here is a Tesla, but they can actually pretend it's different vehicles and simulate how the AI would perform in different scenarios. So it's really quite fascinating. It's a lab that's just across there in the same building as the EV Center, and has about 7 or 8 people related to that lab. So still small, but growing part of our work. On the policy research side, which I lead, we're also doing some interesting work. I'll just highlight a couple recent projects that are either recent or ongoing. We're focusing on automated vehicle safety, and this is a new topic for ITS Davis, which, historically our focus on automation and autonomous vehicles has been on how we can integrate them into society and how we can ensure that they reduce social and environmental impacts. But we're shifting a little bit in the last year or so to really think about the feasibility of this technology and how do we develop the policy architecture that would make sure that the companies can be accountable to the public and that and this technology can work. So it's been really fascinating. There's been a ton on AV safety in the last couple of years, and we're really involved in that work. So we're also looking at the local stakeholder response and prioritization. We did a study where we invited a number of cities who have autonomous vehicles operating in their cities to engage with us and learn about their experiences, their limitations of their purview, and how they interact with companies and what they want to see change in the way that local governments can interact with AV companies. So super fascinating work there. And then a current and ongoing project we have is on labor. And so when we say labor, this is not broadly about labor, although Miguel, who left, and I did a project a couple of years ago on sort of the broader effects of automated vehicles on labor demand. But that being said, this is a very narrow topic that we're working on now, focusing on safety drivers and remote operators, sort of the new workforce associated with automation. But really fascinating stuff there to think about, not just the safety implications of those workers, but also the sort of policy architecture, policy infrastructure that's necessary to ensure that those safety workers are in fact increasing safety outcomes. And so with that, I think that's all I had. I did stick to 3 slides.
Okay, we have, I think, Aditya, are you out there?
Oh, maybe he is. I forgot he might be,
Are you there?
I did. And he may have decided that I'm doing it for him.
All right, Lou, got it.
Are you there, Aditya? No? Okay, it's 2 slides. And I'll just do my best. So this is the third of the 3 centers I talked about internationally. This is about the India Center, but these slides also talk about what we're calling the Global South Center, And that's just sort of the whole world, actually, most of the global south is actually in the north, if you go by the equator, but anyway. Gil is threatening to open a global north center, but anyway, we have a little bit of center craziness here, but the point is to try to integrate things and coordinate and, but the work in India, I mean, Adish has just been amazing. He came in as a kind of a mid-career professional. He'd been in the auto industry in India and also done a lot of policy work. Came in, knocked off his PhD quickly, and then we hired him as a center director. And so he's created the ZEV Research Center, and it's similar to the kinds of things we do here. There's a clean transportation transitions part, and then there's a ZEV Research Partnership, which is very directly connected with Indian policymaking, and we have researchers in India who we are working with very closely. And then you can just see some of the area groups. All right, some of the areas here, I won't go through it in any detail, but the big things are, as usual, technology fuels, and then this cooperation thing. Now we can get more into the transportation behavior side too. We just haven't done that yet. We're focused mainly on vehicles and fuels and policy. The specific kinds of things, so there's now a California-India ZEV partnership that there's been a couple of meetings on this. It's got support from CAR, our Air Resources Board. The US DOE and State Department are involved. It's a big deal. The government of India is involved, so they've had a couple of big meetings on this, and we're kind of the conveners. There's a Council on Critical Minerals that we've created in cooperation with UN Energy, and also we're the technical lead on clean transportation for the US government's Global Climate Action Partnership. So these are all things that DG's done in like the last 2 years. And then the particular research projects that are going on at this point: policy design for zero emission vehicles, including two-wheelers, cars, and trucks, ensuring safe, sustainable supply chains of critical minerals for energy transitions, and unlocking access to finance in developing country markets. So it gives you a sense of the kinds of scope of things we do. So yeah, there's already been 8 publications, et cetera, and he's just not here, but you can find him if you want to. He's here a lot of days, and it's a really great area to get involved with. That's it.
Great, thanks. All right, and then to wrap things up, we're gonna hear about an extracurricular activity.
So hi everyone, I'm Carolina Lecomte, and I'm not presenting as center, but we are a group, and we're part of a bigger group, which is the Women in Transportation Seminar that has chapters in Sacramento. It has a bigger organization across the state, the United States and international. And we have our own group here at UC Davis. So what we want to do is we do also like we connect really well with the Sacramento chapter, that they do workshops, they host lunches that you can join virtually or in person. They bring speakers, so it's all about like both the professional side and also like maybe personal growth in the career. And so we also in the UC Davis have done several things. So we've done like picnics, bike rides, panels. These are some of the pictures that of the events we did last year. And so we want to keep doing more of that, and maybe creating other new activities that we didn't do last year. So currently, well, I'm the president, Claire Medina is our vice president. Maha is between treasurer and secretary, so we do have an open position if anybody wants to join our board. And so I put a bit of the things that we did last year, but we are also thinking about panels and also engaging more with the Sacramento one. So for doing that, you're welcome to sign up in the like Alice right at the top of the thing. So you kind of scan the QR code, but like that, this is to sign up for our own listserv. It's open to women and men. We do events both and also sometimes together with TTP. But you can join our listserv there. Also follow us on Instagram. And then also highly encourage you to join the Sacramento chapter, which is free for students. You just have to go there and log in and go to the membership, and you will get their emails as well. And students get discounts for
lunches for the other events, so yeah.
And
That's-
men.
Yeah, all students,
Yeah.
not, so it's open for women and men, but yeah,
There
in
goes,
general.
Thank
There you
Ally
go.
just moved
Now
herself.
you can go and.
I don't know why she
So
had run
the-
to that back room to do it, but
The QR is for our own listserv at Davis, and then the other one is for the bigger chat.
We made it time to spare, so we do have time for questions of any of the speakers and directors who are still around. While you're thinking about that, just a couple things to note. We do amazing work here across a whole range of really important topics. I think you've seen that now. It's all kind of divided up into these centers, but you may have noticed a lot of overlap in the people involved in different centers. So it's really a Venn diagram, right? So the centers kind of give a focus for a particular topic, but they're not boundaries. And there is a lot of sharing across and collaboration across these different initiatives. And I think you can see we're all pretty friendly and I think hopefully accessible. So feel free to reach out to anybody if you want to know more about the work that's going on. Participate in these lab meetings and the STEP seminar and all of that. That is all here for you. And it's a really important part of your education here, whatever.
STEP seminars are Tuesday lunch, and that's what students present. Usually, if we can get the students to do it, we try to fill it up with student presentations
And you get a free lunch.
and a free lunch.
Right.
Everybody's invited.
Right. So directors, you want to come back up and anybody have questions, follow up, whatever you want to ask? Answer questions. Yeah. Any questions? You're supposed to submit
It's
some.
fire hose.
Yeah, I know, it's a, yes, right.
It's a lot of
It's a little
information.
overwhelming, but it, now you've kind of seen the full gamut of things we do and hopefully it makes a little more sense. Yes.
So if you're not
Oh.
able to attend a particular meeting for a lab group in a quarter, how do you best recommend like staying up to date with what they're doing, staying in touch?
Get in touch with whoever seems to be leading the effort and get on the email list for that group. So then, yeah, because like my lab, we send out a when is good poll at the beginning of the quarter to figure out, what's the time where we can maximize who's able to participate. Yeah. And connecting with a student who's involved in that activity is another good way to stay in touch. Yeah, good question. Anybody else? Yeah.
Just a quick question, will we get to like
Yeah.
I was gonna ask. The cultural norms, how they might be different, does that go into kind of understanding the research you might do?
We certainly try. Yeah, I mean, we have people from these countries and regions running the programs. It's the first step. And a lot of people involved from there. And I think comparing those, cultural norms as well as technology differences, market differences, prices, I think those comparisons make it really interesting.
Anybody else? Going once? Another one? Yay, thank
I was
you.
gonna ask for Mosaic, since it's newer, how developed is the research? Or is it kind of like research that maybe was pulled from other areas and kind of molded into what Mosaic is looking into specifically when it comes to like automation?
Yeah, good question. So the research was being done elsewhere for for some number of years before it became Mosaic, right? Like we kind of came together and formed the center. So it's a new center, but the topics are something that we've been tackling for a while. That being said, each of the projects, we have a diverse set of sort of clients, as it were. Some of our funding comes from, federal sources or state sources in which we're doing a specific project and a specific timeline. So it'll be a year or 2 year project. And then other times we're working directly with, actually, we have a project with an autonomous field company where we're sort of more in a client, research client relationship, researcher client relationship. So it really depends on the project. Some are shorter term, some are longer. Yeah.
Once.
I should say also that if anyone's interested in autonomy, we may have a GSR open in just the spring next year. So if you have, because of reasons that are sort of obvious, this project was delayed, so you may have to hire someone just for spring. So you weirdly have just spring open next year and you're interested in autonomy, come see me.
All right, I think with that, so I see a hand go up, we'll call it a day. Thank you all for being here. Thanks to all our speakers. We'll see you next week.